Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation and sporting community news happening across the nation and on the Hill. Thanks for tuning in. This is the TSV Roundup. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly update on all things sporting community and conservation news. This is the week of June 10th, 2024. Here's what we got going on. CSF priority conservation funding, protection, and other pro-sportsman legislation signed in Louisiana. Connecticut adjourns, and a sin tax dies on the vine. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. How many fish are people actually catching? Chris Horton brings us that. An update from Bob Matthews on the Illinois hunting contest ban. And finally, a good story, a feel-good story out of California. California Sportsmen's Caucus comes together for annual trap shoot. Let us start with our lead story. And this was a great bit of news that we made aware of the end of last week from Mark Lance. Mark would have joined us, but he's on the road, so you're stuck with me. So here's the thing. 3 acts we want to cover, and the biggest one, arguably, and definitely a CSF priority, is Act 449, championed by National Assembly of Sportsmen's Caucus Executive Council member and Louisiana Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus co-chair, Representative Jerome Zerang. 449 requires the state to reimburse the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries for all lost revenue resulting from free and discounted recreational hunting and fishing licenses created by the legislature. That is welcomed news. We've covered this topic numerous times on the program, and here is another case of finding solutions and everybody wins. Folks are able to enjoy and be presented with those free and discounted licenses for the reasons folks are deemed to get them, and conservation funding at the state level is not missed out on. So that's a huge pull. Mark and CSF have been working on that for quite some time. Again, my apologies. I'm certainly not giving it enough gusto that I know Mark would, because, when you work on these things and, Mark's in there at the state house and working with legislators in the legislature and just, pounding the ground down there, and to see that hard work come to fruition with the help of the caucus there, that's a big deal. So tip of the cap to Mark and all involved. That's a great result there, but wait, there's more. Act 220, championed by caucus member Representative Gay Ferment, expands the prohibition against hunter harassment, disturbance of trappers, hunters, and fishermen on all lands and waters managed by the state. How can you go wrong with that? That extends beyond what they already have. So, in a state where public land is probably at a premium, being utilized by most folks, that's a nice protection to have. And then finally, Act 272, championed by caucus member Representative Jason DeWitt, authorizes the use of dogs to retrieve and dispatch mortally wounded deer with the use of lights, except on wildlife management areas. Another good piece. So the highlights here for 449, by having that reimbursement model, it's protecting $40 million for state-based conservation that hunters and anglers in Louisiana generate annually through the American System of Conservation Funding. We listened in last week to Ben O'Brien, and that episode is still current. We deep dive that, so if you listen, you heard all about. And here's an example of that, and what happens when we give those free or discounted licenses away, and how that affects that very unique user pays public benefits model. 220 would ensure that hunters, anglers, and trappers are protected from harassment on all state lands in waters while engaged in their pursuits. Maintaining access includes protecting folks from harassment while on public land and water. This is key for R3 efforts. Extending harassment protections to all state-managed lands and waters beyond the current protections for some public lands gives folks the peace of mind that adequate protections are in place to safeguard them for harassment while on more public access properties. And then finally, 272, more on the tracking dogs. Before it was signed, hunters could not use tracking dogs or possess a firearm while tracking wounded deer after legal shooting hours. Now, on private property, hunters are allowed to use tracking dogs after legal shooting hours, use of lights while tracking wounded deer, and dispatching wounded deer even after legal shooting hours. And they're allowed to enter onto the private property of another so long as they have written permission from the landowner. So this has also been covered, I think, in the roundup from other states, and I'm still surprised that this is a thing across the country, but it is, and it's good to see more states get caught up on that. And the last thing we want to do is, especially in a state like Louisiana, I don't think it ever gets too cold. So during that deer season, man, if someone paunches a deer, you want to recover it. So this is a great piece here to allow for a hunter to go out there and recover that deer and not let it spoil and go to waste, because that's the last thing we're out there trying to do. So another tip of the cap there to the legislature for recognizing the importance of that and being able to recover that great resource, and then again not letting it fall victim to the weather and spoilage, and just a problem solved. I love seeing that. Coming up my way in Connecticut, the session adjourned, and with that, a sin tax died, stuck right where it was. HB 5114 sought to levy an additional 11% sin tax on Connecticut's sporting community to fund special interests on the back of law-abiding citizens who were purchasing firearms and ammunition that were already taxed. Again, see the ASCF in that program last week. We're already levied the 10 to 11% tax at the manufacturer level. It's already baked into the cake. So these folks looking to add that 11% to fund community gun violence intervention program grants. Yeah, non-starter. And it's, again, we've talked about this. It's just a rinse and repeat tactic of punishing law-abiding citizens just for their purchases to fund something. Now, I'm curious on these things when they do fail. Where do these folks go to get their funding, or do they really care? I would suspect they don't, because we know this is a tactic, and they'll take it when they can get it. And in a situation like this, no action was taken on it before the end of the session, so it died. Now, rest assured, it will come back, but we were definitely active. Yours truly, as a matter of fact, submitting testimony and making folks down there in Connecticut aware that non-starter, detrimental repercussions on the funding model and what it would do to dissuade consumers in Connecticut from making those purchases in Connecticut, especially. So we'll take it. That's a win. And we live to fight another day on that. And, with all this stuff, as we chalk up the wins as they come, how they come, lends us the opportunity, especially as the sessions are closed during the summer before we get back into it, to be a little bit more proactive. So, hopefully we can start mitigating some of those threats, knowing that they're going to come back. But more to come on that. Let's see what our buddy Chris Horton brings us. This goes back to, again, we're harkening back to this, and this is some more update stuff on the MRIP, the Marine Recreational Information Program, in an effort to survey anglers about catch. And let's get the highlights from Chris. The federal MRIP program does a poor job of estimating how many anglers are fishing for any given species on a given day, often leading to short fishing seasons or premature season closures. Using funds available through the Inflation Reduction Act, the feds and the state have embarked on a series of workshops to look at technologies to address the age-old challenge of estimating angler effort and harvest. Last week, the Gulf States Marine Fisheries Commission in cooperation with NOAA, convened for the first of 2 scheduled workshops to address the highly variable and often inaccurate estimates of recreational catch provided by the current MRIP program. While all 5 Gulf states use their own recreational data collection programs, having more reliable estimate of the actual number of anglers fishing for a given species on a given day would help validate which survey the state's or NOAA's MRIP is providing a more dependable estimate of angler effort. Developing a better way to obtain estimates for angler effort would benefit not only Gulf states, but recreational fisheries management nationwide. Currently, MRIP relies on mail-in survey of anglers who must recall when they have fished and what they have caught in the past. A recent discovery by NOAA indicated that simply changing the order of the mail survey questions can have a drastic influence on survey results. In fact, the current order seems to lead to estimates of angler harvest that is 30 to 40% higher than reality. Pilot study is underway by NOAA to determine how to modify the survey and be more realistic. Relying on angler recall to assess overall angler effort is still inefficient. Could you imagine trying to fill a survey out at the end of your fishing season and what that looks like? I mean, we get them from our state agency, during the turkey season, wanting to know, did you run into bear? Did you run into moose? Did you run into bobcat? And if you're not actively maintaining that diary every day, and then you come to the end of the season and voluntarily filling out this survey to submit it, that's a challenge. And I don't know, even there, you're getting your estimate. So here, how could you possibly, if you're an avid angler, seems that there would be a lot of guesswork and, yeah, I caught this then. As Chris says, we need a better way to get more reliable count of the anglers who actually fished over a certain time frame. This makes me think of trapper surveys. I assume other states have these. Having only trapped in my home state of New Hampshire, you have to fill out a report of a trapper effort. So what days, how many nights you let the trap sit, what you caught. And it's very detailed. We often talk about on this program how trapping is so scrutinized. But of the small population of people that go out, run lines, and provide that information, talking with the wildlife biologists, fur bearer biologists, it's very accurate information, as long as it's being caught up and filled. Now, I don't know if you do something like that here, or if there's a better way. I know Chris and I have kind of kicked the idea around of using technology and an app and being able to do stuff right there on your phone. And maybe that's coming with some of this technology they're looking at. And I know Chris and I have talked about doing a program just on this alone. So you got to think with the computers that we have in our pockets, there's probably a more efficient and more accurate fix literally at our fingertips. So hopefully get that sorted out, because the more accurate information, like it said, it's 30 to 40% over guessing here, and shorten people on their seasons. And obviously the ripple effects that has as far as ecotourism dollars, people getting licenses. Is it worth it for me to go out in such a short season? So more to come there. A quick update from Bob Matthews. The bill to ban hunting contests has failed. It was not passed as the legislature adjourned in Illinois. So that's that. They had brought it back the last time we reported on it, and looks like nothing happened there. So good. And another tactic that will likely come back, and perhaps a topic worth working with the caucus and the state partners to be proactive on in the off season. We see this very bill pop up in so many states, with coyotes always at the focus. And it didn't pass. So for another session, you can call that a victory. Speaking of victories, They did some shooting in California, legally shooting. This one from Barry Snell. Approximately 75 sportsmen and women gathered at the YOLO Sportsman's Club in Davis, California, just outside Sacramento, on Tuesday, May 28th, to speak with members of the California Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus while enjoying some trap shooting. Presentations were given by the caucus co-chair, Senator Brian Jones, our partners at California Waterfowl Association, California Rifle and Pistol Association, Bill Gaines and Associates, we know Bill, and of course, the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation, one Barry Snell. In a state like California, where the legislative news for sportsmen and women is often bad, this year's caucus trap shoot was a welcome day of fellowship and celebration in the capital city. On a typical, beautiful California afternoon, around 75 folks gathered at the YOLO Sportsman's Club to speak with legislators who support them and their issues. Several of the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation and state partners also spoke, as we said, and all had a good time. Caucus co-chair Senator Brian Jones spoke for a few minutes on the importance of our hunting and shooting traditions and their ongoing efforts to hold the line within the legislature. Following that were remarks from Mark Henley of the California Waterfowl Association, the prime sponsor of the event, followed by Rick Travis with the California Rifle and Pistol Association, and Barry, our assistant manager in the southwestern states. Families and legislative staffers were also on hand and in attendance. Everyone was given guidance on the firing line by the young folks from the local California Youth Sporting Association trap team. How about it? Over a dozen California game wardens were on hand to answer questions, act as range safety officers, and provide a few pointers here and there as needed. California bowmen hunters also came out to set up a range for kids to try their hand at archery. The event was rounded off with an IDPA pistol shooting demonstration on the adjacent shooting range. And the final touch was a fine spaghetti and meatball dinner provided by the good people at the YOLO's. How about it? Another week of good stories, good news stories to bring to you. And happy to do it. It makes my job a heck of a lot better, not bringing people bad news. So there you have it. From coast to coast, good news and parts in between. Again, huge congratulations to Mark and the Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus in Louisiana for securing those very needed funds. And then also folks being able to enjoy those discounted free licenses. A huge win and a great lead story for this week of June 10th, 2024. I referenced it a couple times. Last week, dropped a feature presentation with Ben O'Brien. We dug deep into Pittman Robinson, into Dingle Johnson, the American system of conservation funding, what that all looks like. Fantastic history lesson was given by Ben, so do go check that out and take a day or two to listen to it, take notes. It should inspire people to do a little more homework on their own, and it's good stuff to know. And it's our history, our very recent history, but one that's fading away into the sands of time that we definitely need to bring back to the fore and make current information. So do check that out. Off week this week, so this is it for the week. You get the roundup. Next week, a feature podcast presentation. I will be heading down myself to the Fur Takers of American Rendezvous in Virginia. So hopefully I can return with a good report on that great gathering and let you folks get a little inside to what the Rondi was like. It should be a whole lot of fun and see what the trapping community has going on. And if you're in the area, the end of this week, the week of June 10th, if you're in the Harrisonburg, Virginia area, do stop by the Rondi and check out what's going on. All the modern technology that goes into today's modern trapping and a good education could be had. If you're a Virginia legislator and you're listening to this, come on out. It'll definitely be eye-opening and be a great way to get questions answered and be up to date on all things trapping technology, best management practices, and hearing from the people that are on the ground managing wildlife and fur bearers on the landscape. All right, folks, thanks again for bringing us along a little longer here. Sorry for that, but you want to talk about some good news while you have it. So we will see you all next Wednesday for the roundup and the feature presentation next Thursday, when we will be exploring the benefits of suppressors. Got a couple of great guests lined up for that. So we'll bring you that. Talking suppressors. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.